Hi guys, welcome back to the second half of the semester. My name is Josh Johnson. I'm the horn instructor here at Iowa State. And I wanted to take just a moment to sort of answer some questions about scoring for you guys. Um, First what I'm going to do is play the usable range of the horn, and then I'm going to play some extremes. So the usable range of the horn is probably going to be something around low C, and this is, for a college age student. So we're going to go from low C all the way up to high C. And that sounds like this. So the top note that you heard is a high C above the staff, third space C, middle C, and a low C. And I'm sure your teacher can clarify a scoring number for you, whichever order you guys use. Let me play some extremes for you. So I'm actually going to play an octave below where I just started, and then I'll play a little bit above high C. You hear it gets pretty diffused, and that was the fundamental, so the lowest technical note I could play on the horn. Okay, now we're going to play above high C. So that was a high G above high C. So there are very few pieces where that would actually be called for. And, if that were called for, we actually would switch instruments. We would use a specialist horn called the descant horn. So definitely for your purposes, do not score above high C. There's a pretty good handout that accompanies the course, and I totally agree with what your professors have written there. So go ahead and stick to it. Okay, so why do we play the horn? What's important about the horn? It's the sound. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to play a couple of excerpts that demonstrate some different colors and characteristics that you could program. And this all comes from the standard orchestral rep. So the first one is, this is basically West Side Story. This is one of my favorite solos, and you'll recognize it. It's the Somewhere solo that happens in the middle of the orchestral suite. And it's all about having a beautiful singing sound. Okay, now I'm going to leave you with the caveat today, and this will come at the end. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. So I'm going to play a couple of cool excerpts for you that sort of shows pretty much the limitations of the instrument. Things are evolving all the time, and the horn can be considered a brass instrument that you could use in very much the same way. You can write, in the tuba register for the horn. You could write in the trumpet register for the horn. So the cool thing about the horn is this huge range we get to encompass. So I'm going to play you a couple of things. Don't get too technical in your writing, and I'll play this second excerpt for you so you can hear that. This is from Mussorgsky's Pictures of an Exhibition. So what I employed was double tonguing, and it's quite difficult. That's just one of those excerpts that we just sort of get in the back of our brain and in our fingers, and we just sort of master. So it's probably the speediest demand that we have in the orchestral repertoire, but we can double tongue and we can do it well. Okay, so the next excerpt I wanted to play for you is High and Soft. So this comes in the middle of Ravel's first movement of his piano concerto. So there you go. The next one is playing the full range of the horn. Richard Strauss is probably our most favorite composer. because he would write just the most ridiculous stuff for us sometimes. So, what he was really good at is encompassing the whole range of the horn. Luckily, his dad was actually a horn player who premiered a bunch of Wagner operas, but that's neither here nor there. We'll talk about that some other time. So this is the opening to Ein Heldenleben, and it's commonly done in the cellos. So the principal horn plays this with the cello section. So even in that first interval, and you heard that I missed a couple of notes there, right? So already we're getting into a 3-octave little riff with just this one excerpt. So composers really have done well to push the horn in different directions. Okay, now the next excerpt that I want to play for you is loud and low. The beautiful thing about horn players is we always get condensation in our horn. We blow into a metal tube, so it creates some condensation. So we get to empty it. Here's Shasti 5. Shostakovich Symphony No. 5. This comes in about the middle of the first movement. So that's on just about every orchestra audition that happens ever. The horn can also play high and loud. That comes from the end of Till Eulenspiegel, also by Richard Strauss. The horn can play just as loud as any of the other brass instruments. We do face the wrong direction and we put our hand in the bell. So we have to work a little extra hard to compete with our bell front brass colleagues. And that opens Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony. Okay, the next one is a nice soft excerpt, which comes up very often. That comes from the first movement of Beethoven 9. The horn actually has another cool remedy of colors that we can use. This is a French horn mute. It's a straight mute, and this is probably the most common mute that horn players own and have. So I'm going to encourage you, if you're writing for high school age students, you can use mute. I would not use it extensively, though. Use it as a unique color. Let me just play some for you. I'm just going to play a C major scale so you can hear that. So it has a neat, woody, almost bassoon-like color to it that can come in handy. The other technique that horn has is stopped horn technique. And at a high school age, I would probably encourage you not to write for stopped horn. You know, college and above would be a good place to start incorporating stopped horn. Let me just play you a couple of examples out of the orchestral canon. So this comes from Mahler's Ninth Symphony. This happens in the second horn right at the beginning of the piece. It's really effective. And it's almost like this yearning echo at the beginning of the piece, so it's a really cool color. Mahler was sort of the stopped horn master, so let me play for you maybe something loud. Yeah. So he would have effects like that happen all the time in the horn section. It's not a pretty color by any means, but if you really need to get through to your audience with an ominous sort of color, stopped horn is the way to go. I'm going to leave you with this caveat, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Especially if you're writing for middle school or high school students. I'd be very conscientious about the technical demands that you place upon them. As mentioned, your educators have a really good guideline for orchestration already set up for you. I'd encourage you to do lots of listening, get some good recordings, and I want you to visit hornexcerpts.org to see in print what some horn parts look like. It's a great free resource, and the good news is they place a recording right below all of the written out excerpts. So everything you need is right there, and it'll be a really good way for you to get acquainted with the horn. hornexcerpts.org. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good rest of your semester. And if you have any questions at any time, just feel free to stop by my office. I'm more than happy to help. Or shoot me an email, horn@iastate.edu. Thanks, guys, and have a good rest of the semester.